All right, then, let's tell you what happened today in Abuja, the nation's capital, where there is another extraordinary summit of the ECOWAS leaders today, where President Bola Tinubu is saying no option is now off the table, including the use of force. The president said this at the second extraordinary meeting. The second that probably will be happening within 10 days. The president, in his speech, says that from the communique and the agreement made at the meeting, no option is taken off the table. And he says that leaders of the region are steadfast in their commitment to supporting Niger towards peaceful and democratic stability in the country. The president believes that while there will be challenges ahead, but with collective resolve, ECOWAS will navigate all obstacles for lasting peace and prosperity in Niger Republic and other member countries. Take a listen to President Tinubu.
In reaffirming our relentless commitment to democracy, human rights, and the well-being of the people of Niger, it is crucial that we prioritize diplomatic negotiations and dialogue as the bedrock of our approach. We did. And we still look to engage the party involved, including the coup leaders, in honest discussion to convince them to relinquish power as suggested and reinstate President Bazoum. It is our duty to exhaust all avenues of engagement to ensure a swift return to constitutional governance in Niger.
Since the toppling of the democratically elected government in Niger, which is just a neighbor to Nigeria, the military junta in that country has since been firm on their decision to hold onto power. In fact, today they set up a new government, putting up a team together, and there's an expiration of the ultimatum that have been issued by ECOWAS. But all the options that have been put, both diplomatic and mediation processes, seem not to have worked out or successful. But this is the position of ECOWAS leaders and all the 15 member countries who have met over the last few days. But today, this was the outcome, and they say military option of use of force is not off the table. Take a listen to the president of the commission.
Call on all partner countries and institutions, including the United Nations, to support ECOWAS in its effort to ensure a quick restoration of constitutional order in conformity with its normative instruments. Direct the President of the Commission to monitor the implementation of the sanctions. Direct the Committee of the Chief of Defense Staff to activate the ECOWAS standby force with all its elements immediately. Order the deployment of the ECOWAS standby force to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger. Underscore its continued commitment to the restoration of constitutional order through peaceful means.
Those are the decisions. What does it mean to have the standby force to restore order? What are the implications of the statement of the president? But let's take a look at this information, everyone. These are the options that are available. Experts will tell you. Diplomatic or diplomacy is on the table. Political options are on the table in this kind of scenario. Economic sanctions are on the table. There is a possibility of counter-coup or opposition, even within the military rank and file in Niger Republic. There is a military and the use of force, which is one of the options, and it's now on the standby. They were nearing a situation where there will be a movement in that direction of a use of force. Political intervention and mediation that are on the table. the military junta, the ousted democratically led president in the center of this, ECOWAS, President Tinubu, at the center of all of these. But in a moment, I will show you the timeline. Where did these all begin? Just in the last few days, less than 3 weeks or so, things are escalating so fast. Why are northern leaders in the country warning? Why are experts telling President Tinubu to be cautious about the way and manner it handled it? Will these escalate so much that it can affect Nigeria's political and security situation? Let's get one man talking who has been speaking about it, who has written widely about it. It's Professor Usuji Medana. He's a professor of penology and international security. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. You've written, I read your article in your piece today. Yeah. It was much of caution. It was much of giving advisory to the president and the ECOWAS leadership about this. But the first question is, for those of us who don't want to bother ourselves about the international dimension or the technicalities of all these, Niger as we know it, we have at least 3 languages that are spoken in Niger Republic and are spoken also in Nigeria. Niger is one of the largest countries on the continent, in fact, the second largest, with over 1 million square kilometers that we have. Most of it having desert. There's just about 25 million people in that country. If there is a war in Niger, what is Nigeria's business?
Sheung, thank you for having me. Let's do the anatomy of coup in African country. If you look at it from 1960 to almost to date, we have almost more than 140 attempted coup, and 80 were successful. So you look at what were the reasons and what happened, and why these coups were somehow succeeding in doing what they are doing. Up to now, we have not come out from the colonial hangover and the military junta hangover to look at our security architecture, to look at how are we going to reposition a democratic government in terms of VIP protections, and so on and so forth. If you look at Niger in particular, why you mentioned in your prelude, why you see most of the northerners we are talking about it. We don't have a defined border. Most of the things you see on the map, they are not very kind of feasible. If you get to places, you see how we overlap within ourselves. Some places actually looks like Nigeria, but it's Niger. Some places look like Niger, but it is Nigeria.
And I understand that there's a lot of intermarriages with Nigerians, northern Nigerian, and there are
even today, someone read my article, and the response is there. One of the person, he married from Katsina. He married, I think, last week. He's part of the transition committee. He's a Nigerian. You look at the relationship. Apart from that, if you have a country, maybe a border with a country that span 1,500 kilometers, that is from Maiduguri to Kebbi states, and you have to be very careful on what you are trying to do. And first thing that Nigeria ought to do in the first place, we should exhaust our bilateral engagement before the multilateral engagement. You have seen the Khalifa, the Sanusi Lami, the Sanusi, was in Niger. So that engagement should continue, whether other options are being considered. Now, come to another issue. Nigeria would not joke with its own interests.
What is Nigeria's interest?
Nigeria's interest is their bilateral agreement, bilateral relationship, what is going to happen to Nigeria. If you look at the countries that surrounded Niger, one, there is Mali, there is Chad, and there is Burkina Faso. All these things, you have coups. Even the Malian and the Chadian guy, if you look at the constitution of the country, in the absence of the president, the speaker shall sit. But he was from the army that now become the president of Mali. Definitely, Chad rather. So definitely, and he was the first person to speak with the coupists.
Sorry, just for a moment. Look at the map there.
Yes.
All right. So if you see, Nigeria has more than 4 states that borders Niger.
Exactly.
You look at Sokoto,
yes.
Katsina,
Kano, Yobe,
yes,
and
Jigawa,
yes,
and of course as a part of
Maiduguri,
Yobe,
yes, to Borno State.
Borno State,
yes.
So we have the implication is that any unrest or violence in that country will spill over into Nigeria.
And you should know, most of our IDPs, as a result of Boko Haram, they are in Niger. And you have some as a result of the banditry, they are in Niger. You have the multinational distinct joint force, the multilateral joint force. Our military, they are together with the Niger military in that operation. So I think Nigeria should always consider the bilateral engagement, that is diplomacy. If you look at it, Sean, the 2000 Lomé Declaration, if you now come to 2007 too, the AGA of 2014, that is African governance architecture, only 17 countries signed it. And out of the 17 countries, only 6 ratified that very agreement. The domestication is just an ink, this thing we are giving to it. This military always use this as a yardstick to strike. Suggestion here, even in Nigeria, we have to restructure our VIP protection. How? We need to have more of our DSS, the police, the NIA, within anything villa. The military left Brigade of Guard for us. If you look at the police, they have ear wing. All what they need is to strengthen that institutions. The military actually underdeveloped these police.
So
police, they have 7,000.
So just a moment, so that people will get the perspective you are bringing.
Yes.
So for Nigeria and our security architecture and the protection of our democratic values and tendencies, we need to rethink our security apparatus. That is what you're saying.
Yes.
So that we can ward off any possible coup. Is that right?
Yes. If you look at it, we have 7,000, more than 7,000 formation of the police. That means if there is any movement of coup, if you strengthen that institution, the police will be able to dictate what is happening there. The military, because of successive coup in Nigeria, they underdeveloped the police. If you go to Kachia, you see most of the equipment of these police guys, they are just lying hollow there. So if you do this, you look at the counterterrorism office in the NSA's counterterrorism department in the NSA's office too. You look at all this and strengthen the institutions. You don't need to have all this. If you look at it, most of the people that did coup in Africa, they were either close to the president or protecting the president, elected president. If you continue doing this, that you will be having this kind of problem. So we have to look at that. Then, issue of good governance matters. The moment these people took the president into hostage, that was the right time for us to engage in bilateral discussion.
So you look at the reasons, because you highlighted that in your article, and you were asking the questions. The military did not just take over for no reason.
Yes.
And almost all the coup in Nigeria from 1966 further down in Africa. But I mean, we domesticate the matter now to look at the reasons why there is a military takeover. Burkina Faso has had one of the highest military coups and one of the most successful. We've seen in Chad, we've seen in some other part of Africa, and this has been on the rise. One of the things that you highlighted in your article is the fact that corruption, mismanagement of resources, and you will hear the military junta in Niger saying that, and in fact in Burkina Faso say they have a lot of resources that the colonialists have used against their own country, but now they need to start thinking internally. Corruption, mismanagement of wealth, and the high-handedness of political class. That is one of the, those are the reasons why these military guys are coming on board. Is there a warning to our political class?
This is the issue I mentioned, the African Charter 2014, that is the issue of African governance architecture, which has to do with the issue of local governance, domesticating the local governance here. We've been fighting on the issue of local government autonomy, where people can be close to the government. We've been fighting, we've been battling. There were a series of amendments of our constitution so that this tier of government can have total freedom. They can have their money coming to them. directly their funds. So if you look at it, the issue of corruption is there, the issue of transparency in governance. You must have those elements, those thematic areas to address them. That is that. Then issue of communication. Today, if you look at the sentiment going on, mostly in the northern part of the country, people does not know that the president is acting as the chairman of the ECOWAS, not as a single individual. It was an ECOWAS decision who he happens to be the president. So you need to communicate to tell the people this is the engagement by ECOWAS. Then what Nigeria is doing is to go and explain to people. But we concentrated in speaking in English language, to be telling people every day what we are doing, where the bulk of the people does not understand this language we are speaking.
The dynamics to this, or the intrigue in this, is that as much as the rest of the world is speaking against the coupists and the junta in Niger, it does look like there is a popular support for the military junta on the ground in Niamey. And the street, on most of the days, they are supporting the coupists.
But you look at it, the psychological warfare too works to some extent, because now it's a transition committee to that transition cabinet. The junta is trying to say, no, we are not here to sit. We are here to hand over power to civilians. Now, this is where the bilateral engagement will be involved. Yesterday, we have seen the Khalifa, Sanusi Lamida Sanusi, he was there. We need to have more of this engagement. Let me tell you, most of these military officers of Niger, they attend their staff and command college courses in Nigeria. So that means there are a lot of instructors that knows these people one-on-one. Now, if you go to the multilateral joint force where Nigeria is leading, you have some people that are together with these Nigerian military guys. Then we have to now engage more in diplomacy to try to see how we are going to solve the problem. If you have, let me tell you one good thing. The Boko Haram, they have not settled in Niger. They did not allow them to settle there, to abort them. The same thing with the bandits. What if we engage into that and we are facing an internal security issue here? And you should know, Niger is our buffer with Libya, where you have a lot of weapons coming from that angle. If you Google and see the small weapons in Africa going around in West Africa, there are 70% found in Nigeria. From where? Mostly from Libya. So we have to be careful in handling this issue. No. It's like America. If you go to USA, USA will not joke with Mexico or Cuba. They'll have to look at their national interest, national security interest, before they look at regional interest.
Isn't it,
so the same thing that we should
a regional issue that's caused a problem with Russia and Ukraine?
Exactly.
Now, the question now here is, there is now an announcement by ECOWAS that the ECOWAS standby force should be on guard and should be standing by. What does that mean? Isn't that a military or use of force that is being considered imminently?
Definitely, there must be a psychological warfare. ECOWAS will not just sit down and say, oh, we are not taking any action.
What is the standby force?
The chairman...
Can you explain to Nigerians what this standby force means?
Definitely, they have to look at it. Where is it escalating to? You have 4 countries now in the ECOWAS region with military heads. And if care is not taken, it will split or escalate to another country. So ECOWAS force must be on standby, and it's a psychological warfare to the coupists in Niger and other places that are maybe there is an intention to do that. And you should know, right now, in the Francophone countries, if you look at it, there is a serious rebellion against the French interests. So we have to look at that. That's why I keep on emphasizing that we have to look at the Nigerian national security interests first before the regional interests.
So it means, Prof, that with the announcement and all the pronouncement of ECOWAS today, that the ECOWAS standby force should be prepared to restore order and democratic governance in Niger. It means that boots on the ground, military boots, including soldiers from Nigeria, might be moving into Niger. Is that the case?
No, I think from the president's speech, which we have watched here, that they are looking at all options. And that option, actually, the military option will be the last resort. And I don't think we are going to go into that military options.
If it gets to that, what is the implication?
The implication, actually, you know, when you start a war, you don't know what will happen again. And we said it, these very fragile borderlines, there is going to be serious distance, and it might even get to the southwest because you have the Benin Republic too, by the other side of the Niger. So there is a lot of things there involved, and we have to think more than 1 million times in a second. We have to think seriously.
We're already bombarded internally with our struggles to hold our territory. Yeah. Not even in terms of military now, in terms of civil security hold on our territory. Now the threat on our the external integrity of our nation is going to be called to question with this. On a final note, Prof, give us an understanding of, if you were in President Tinubu's shoes, a new president who is trying to find his feet on the ground, now is faced to be with this kind of situation in Niger, now leading ECOWAS, with the fact that they want to warn any possible military tendencies. If you look at it, since 2021, Prof, there have been very high number of coup attempts in the region. Yes. Chad, Mali, Guinea, Sudan, Niger. In 2022 alone, there were 5 attempts, but only 2 in Burkina Faso succeeded. Yes. If you look at since 1952, Nigeria had 8 coup attempts, 8 in Niger, 8 in Benin Republic, 8 in Mali, 10 in Ghana, 10 in Sierra Leone, 9 in Guinea-Bissau, 10 in Burkina Faso, 17 in Sudan, 11 in Burundi, 9 in Comoros. The problem here is, if you were in President Bola Tinubu's shoes, would you focus more on internal issues, or you be more involved in what is happening across the continent?
From my first statement, I look at it, I said that we have to look at national security interests before the regional security interests. Mm-hmm. What is our own interest in Niger and in our border countries? We have to look at that very seriously because it's a buffer.
What do you think is more?
Then the next thing is consultation. More? The national security interest is more. Then we have to consult and do counter-consultation. There are a lot of experts within the country that are going to advise the president on what to do in this matter. So they have to be engaged, they have to be consulted, they have to be involved. If you look at what the Sanusi has done, he went there on his own. And I think there should be more engagement, more people to go into that, to sing to these coupies. What would be the repercussion? And even if you want to do any kind of sanction, you sanction those involved and those that are with the coupies, then you now targeted them.
There are those who say if African leaders do not take charge of the cause, that those who are of the school of thought and those who believe that the West sometimes have their own agenda and they decimated some part of the continent, and we should not allow the West to intervene and the colonial mentality to prevail in this tendency. But how African leaders are going to deal with this one is left. Libya is a big lesson.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Professor Usuji Medana, Professor of Penology. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.